was quite exciting because the book was published last year and it has been receiving some reviews, and a lot of friends told me that, well, this was a great novel, but I needed something like the Commonwealth to validate the statements I have had about the novel. I think it did that for me in the sense that it probably the best thing that Commonwealth Prize has done for me is to spur me into writing. I am a university scholar, a literary scholar by training, and most of my energies have gone into literary criticism. But now, with this prize, I think I'm going to give more attention to fiction writing. It's called Sterile Sky. I wrote it in Senegal, the first draft. I had a writing residency organized by the Ghanaian writer Ayikwe Ama. And for 9 months, we were under his mentorship, myself and 3 other young writers from Africa. It was a novel that, it was a kind of writing that was quite intense to me because I was writing something that was autobiographical. I did 2 or 3 more drafts after that, and then I sent it out to publishers in Nigeria, and apparently they were not interested in publishing it. Then I had the opportunity to read from the manuscript in Germany. I was on a postdoctoral fellowship at Humboldt University in Berlin, and there was this conference on African literature, and they had read my work, my poetry online, and they said, look, why don't you participate by reading your poetry? And it occurred to me that I could just read a portion of the manuscript, which was what I did. And the portion I read gripped my audience. And after that, a tall lady walked up to me, an English lady walked up to me and told me that, have you found a publisher? And I said, no. He said, I am a representative of James Curry, and we are sourcing manuscripts for African Writers series. And I said, African Writers series is long dead. She said, no, that it had been revived and they are sourcing for manuscript. If I could give them to have a look. And I said, why not? So I gave it to them, and in 3 months, they say, wow, this is what we've been looking for. I grew up in a city called Kano. Kano is one of the prominent cities in northern Nigeria, and northern Nigeria as a whole is notorious for religious crises. Senseless violence as a result of religion. Muslims and Christians always clashing, and I grew up witnessing this horrible drama. I think as a boy growing up, I witnessed about 4 religious religious crises. And there was one in particular that directly affected me and my family, in the sense that we were locked up. I am from a Christian family, and each time there was the crisis, Christians were the one that were killed. And we were in a small house all by ourselves, my father, my mother, and about 7 of us. So all through the day, it was killing around us. It was shouts, screaming, and all of that. And at a particular time, they came and banged on our door. And they said, look, this house, there are Christians inside. They used to call the Christians kafiris. Say, there are kafiris here, let's enter and kill them. But we were lucky, we were lucky because the neighbor opposite, who was a Muslim, stood outside and insisted that we had left, that they shouldn't touch the house we had left. And he got the fighters convinced that we were no longer in. Otherwise, they would have broken the door and would have killed all of us. So I keep remembering in a very traumatic way. In fact, it kept coming to me as a nightmare that we were hearing the sounds of death around us, and we were close to death, and we were saved. And thereafter, so all these things that I witnessed, as I grew up and as I went to the university, I was always, do I say fascinated or marveled at the capacity of man to perpetrate violence. I mean, I kept wondering, why should man be so violent against his own likeness? I mean, man killing man. It's not enough that we are killing animals, but we just went ahead to kill man. And so I was always marveled that man had that enormous capacity to commit violence. And I thought that was one of the things that pushed me into writing. I had written a number of short stories before writing the novel. I had even published volumes of poetry. And if you go through my work, that theme of violence is predominant. So each time, and today if you are watching the CNN or the BBC, it's one violence or the other. It's a global thing, and you say, why is man having this capacity? So this has always inspired me to write. And because of that, some people think my writing is quite pessimistic. Quite pessimistic, because I see that man is his own destroyer. That's what I think in most cases.